Right.
All right, guys, welcome.
Welcome.
We are live and we are streaming the FOMC announcement. So we'll get an announcement in a couple minutes here.
Yeah, and
we got a Trade Genius logo over Bob.
what do we do?
Oh, there's a Trade Genius logo over you. I need to.
That's perfect. I can't see anyway. You might want to give me show me what you're looking at today.
Okay. There you go.
It's probably a good thing I'm hidden.
Yeah, I don't know if I can change that from here.
Oh, it doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. They're not looking at me. They're listening anyway. Okay. Gotta keep an eye on things here. That Palantir trade is nice and green. Breaking down. Let's go. Get under 78.
All right, we got this here. One more minute and then we'll start getting the news here. So everybody hear us okay? I don't see any viewers yet.
I don't see either. Did you go live on the stream on the YouTube?
As far as I know.
Okay.
Yeah. There we go.
All right.
Just had to update. There we go. I see you guys. welcome. Okay. See what we get for the rate announcement. Obviously, we think, as does everybody else, that we're going to just have a hold on rates here. That's what's priced in. Anything other than that, and there will be pure mayhem. So there'll be a couple of comments that come out with this announcement blurb, and then we'll wait. We'll get the presser. We can answer some questions if you guys have them, and we'll go from there. All right. So then the rate announcement has hit. We're getting a pullback initially here in the markets. Bitcoin's dropped about $400. I just have Bitcoin over here. I have the S&P 500 futures here. I have the US dollar index here.
And I have here.
NASDAQ here. Bob's down here. I slid him over so the logo doesn't cover him up.
And just so you know, I have initial puts on. Market seems heavy to me. Trump just blew up Nvidia again. So
holds rates unchanged at 5.25 to 5.5. So that's the target. FOMC voted 12-0 for the Fed funds rate action, and I think that might be why the dollar is jumping up here. Dollars over here. These are all 5-minute charts. I think that might be why the dollar is jumping up and the equities and crypto pulling back a little bit, because there wasn't any indecision there on that. That's that's more of a hawkish tone, and that's really what this presser is going to be about, is how hawkish the Fed is, in my opinion. If the Fed is hawkish, then what'll end up happening, I think, is the market's going to react negatively. So we could be in for a doozy of a session after we get the presser at the bottom of the hour, 2:30 p.m. So
yeah, just guys, in case I'm not looking at the camera, I'm watching my screen. I got trades on, so I got Palantir puts, I got SPY puts. I think he's going to be really hawkish. You know, why would he be dovish when the stock market's within pennies of an all-time high?
the other thing too is we got core PCE, which is their main measurement of inflation, coming out on Friday. You can bet they probably have an idea what that number is going to be. So if he comes out hawking, then I wouldn't be surprised if that number comes in either, just reflecting the fact that inflation's sticky.
Yeah, the other thing too is oil's not giving up the ghost yet either, and they have to dislodge oil.
So the reason why things are a little negative here is because the Fed removed reference to inflation making progress toward goal. And that's something the market's going to be very sensitive to. If they pick up that the Fed's concerned about inflation and is going to start getting more hawkish to fight that, these markets are going to sell pretty hard. Bitcoin's taking a pretty good dump here now again.
So, and one thing too is we're talking, MicroStrategy is holding up today, but you have to, you know, MicroStrategy is still working off its premium to Bitcoin move too. And I think that's been frustrating a lot of people. There's still a gap to fill in MicroStrategy down in the 272, 280 area that needs to get resolved, I think, before we'll have any meaningful increase.
Bitcoin continues to push down. Benchmark rate is benchmark rate holds at 4.25 to 4.5%.
Nvidia is just getting barbecued right now, down 5.5%. And
yeah, so big jump in the dollar there. Bitcoin's taking the brunt of it. Tech and S&P 500 kind of spiked down and then bounced back up.
I think the market's going to follow after Powell speaks.
Yeah, well, interesting reaction though. So I think there was a unanimous decision on holding rates steady. So there's pretty much consensus across the board with all the Fed governors. So that's more of a hawkish tone. And they are deleting references to making progress on inflation. So again, the initial release here is hawkish, and the markets are reacting as we would expect. If he comes out swinging that sledgehammer at the presser, this is going to get ugly today, guys. Very ugly. And I don't actually think this time they care. I actually don't. I think they don't care if the market pulls back. I think they secretly want deflation, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, look, they gotta get people to start selling some of these inflation assets so they can drive the future costs down.
Now we may get some initial stop runs here to the downside, and then it'll pause, and then we'll hold for the presser. So sometimes they clear the decks. So I think we've done a pretty decent job of that so far. But if Bitcoin starts really cracking below, I would say if we start getting below 101,500, then that might be a bigger move that's taking place. But usually you get an initial move to clear the deck and the stops. And then we get,
we had a
bigger
clear
reaction
the deck
later.
move around 1 o'clock p.m. on SPY, and it pulled up, and it just gave me the courage then to put in after that, because I think they wanted to clear out those people below the swing there. Stark looks interesting to me. I'm going to keep an eye on Stark here for a trade for people, because if Bitcoin's going to struggle here, then I think Stark's going to make a move. Okay, let me back 1 second here, since he makes
Dollar
it
is starting to take off. That dollar move is not stopping. All right, let's do. So you guys have any questions? We will have about 15 minutes until the press conference starts. I'm sorry, about 25 minutes, excuse me. So we can talk charts and things like that in the meantime.
Yeah, Stark on the hourly, if it pushes through 35-45 area fill, then I think there's to move. It gapped up, it filled the gap, and it's pushing back higher again. If Bitcoin's going to have some short-term trouble, Stark's going to make a move here.
Yeah, Bitcoin's the most sensitive to the dollar, I would imagine. So
I'll be watching it, folk. SVIX is down again today. In fact, just listening to me talk. I may just take a shot here on this thing.
This is
Yeah.
switching over to basically a 5 minute chart with kind of our intraday levels plotted on here. Your first hour range up here, obviously, that's resistance. Came up to it, got a rejection off of it. Some important moving averages, daily moving averages here. This one is the 50 SMA, so you can see it's been acting as support here. But if we start getting below the weekly 9 EMA, which is down here, then that starts to get pretty bearish.
All right, I put a buy stop order in for those who are subscribers. You can see it in ETF alerts. We're not entered yet, just a buy stop in case this thing starts to escalate. You're already in the trade. My new best friend Dips is having a great day. Dips is up. Dips is up quite a bit today, and they paid 50-cent dividend tomorrow, 50% annualized. Crazy.
I'm gonna have to kill Discord. Okay. Too many alerts.
Yeah, Dips is up 72 cents today, 5%. So mucho bueno.
Yeah, Wesley. I mean, to me, I'd be real surprised if they started coming out with dovish thoughts at the presser at this point.
Uh-uh.
It seems like the path is set, but we'll see.
Well, Trump wants it down too, so he can show that he's fixing everything.
I'm curious as to whether or not they will hammer on the tariff issue
Mm.
in their reasoning to be hawkish. Because if they do that, what they're going to say is we're digging in against the administration again, and I think that's going to create some chaos in the markets.
Yeah, could be. I want chaos. I am scheduled for chaos. Okay, so let me go into YouTube so I can look at some of the questions here.
Unless you're long volatility, Clint. If you're just long volatility, then direction doesn't matter so much. Usually,
No.
the direction is down. We also have earnings. Meta is announcing after the bell too, so it's a pretty volatile day.
So is Tesla. Here we are. Could we
RJ, I don't think a crash, but the one thing you have to keep in mind is that if we do go into a bear market, or if, let's just say we are starting into one, let's just say we ring the bell at the top already, that's done. And that's my view that there's a very good chance of that happen on Bitcoin as well. The way that they topped the market on inauguration day, that's very similar to what we saw when the Coinbase IPO came out in April of 2021. Very, very similar pattern. In fact, I think I have an overlay of that somewhere. Yeah, here. So this is how they topped the market, and as you can tell, it's not just a one time whoosh, right? There's a topping process. So we're sort of kind of looking like similar price action here. So this is what in blue here is how they topped it on the news with the Coinbase IPO. So the Coinbase IPO was here on this candle. Price was sort of in an upwards consolidation, very similar to what we saw going into the inauguration. And then after the announcement, down, which we're starting, still working on this part of it, a small bounce to retrace some of that, and then really the bigger move that sent us down into that 60. At that point, we were up at 65,000, and then we went down probably 50% pullback for a few months before they double topped it in November. So, we've had a really good run from below 16,000 up to 109 plus. That's an awesome run. Do we get an early cycle? The cycle's been a little different, right? Normally the cycle would run till November. And if we top out here, that would be different as well. But there's been some anomalies on this cycle that's been different than the previous two. So Bitcoin might be topping out. Bitcoin tends to lead the markets, right? Tends to roll over first, similar to what happened at the end of 2021. Tends to bottom first and grind up when we have pullbacks in the market. So maybe it's giving us a heads up that more down is coming.
We just we just broke 600 on SPY.
This is probably one of the most bearish reactions we've seen in a while to just the actual announcement itself. Usually the announcement itself is a known thing and we kind of chop around within 10 or 15 points of that announcement level. The announcement level appears in black, so we're down quite a bit from that. But then we get more movement from the presser. This is a much more bearish reaction.
Yeah, so Phil, we came down and touched that stop run at 1 p.m. Slightly broke it. Now we'll see if we move down even further.
Yeah. For me, if Bitcoin starts to break down through this bullish block here, I think that's going to probably have people questioning life up here. I think most people will say we're going to continue to consolidate in this range if this does break down and concentrate on buying the dips. But if we do get down to here on a pullback, losing the bottom of the range, I think brings probably a test of mid 80s. And then ultimately, if we are still working our way down, if this is part of a larger rotation that is starting to commence, you have to start looking at 74, that previous high. So
yeah,
this is an important area of balance for Bitcoin up here. Really important because a lot of I think most of the market is expecting this to go into like a final leg higher at least, or potentially a couple more that extend into November. But you have to be careful with the macro here because if the economy is starting to roll over, if the Fed gets really hawkish in the next hour with their statements, you could see a significant market top for a while, in my opinion. I've got about 15 more minutes until the presser.
That's crazy.
This is another chart that I have. This is basically it's based on the long-term yields. And when you see green on the chart, that's telling you that you're kind of toward the tail end of your business cycle. So if I zoom out, you can see that, the dot-com boom, right, that it started that run, it showed up. And then when it shows up and then it rolls over, right? So it's telling you that basically that cycle is peaking and rolling over. It plots one of these red lines. I don't know if you can see that, but essentially that's your risk off. If you're in a big portfolio, or if you're in your 401k, you basically want to start going to cash at that point and waiting for the signs that it's bottoming out. And that's what those red histogram marks are for. Over here, we had it come and go and disappeared, but then it reappeared again. So actually, when that happens, it negates the signal, and that happened rather quickly. So it was looking to be done, and then the market came surging back right away. But usually, if it doesn't come back right away, you're probably not seeing it for a while. So my expectation, we got the red line here now, right? So my expectation is we'll go into a period of decline similar to the dot-com bust or the most recent, the Great Financial Crisis, and we'll stay bearish until we get our red showing back up again, and our green line. That's ultimately your green light to get totally bullish again. So that's what it looks like now. We got the signal here. Last time we had an early signal before the top, it took about 3 months, and that's right about where we're at now. So that's why I've been saying you got to stay cautious, because at this point, I treat any move up here, I treat as a divergent high, basically, where you're getting just short squeezes to finish off the move.
Yeah, and I have if we break this 590.99 area on the 15-minute, we're going to go down and test the hourly swing low at 596 in my view. So everything's kind of waiting right now.
Yeah, BTC just unable to get a bid. Continue to push down here.
Yeah. Not gonna. While we're waiting for the Fed, I'm gonna take care of a few things. I'll be right back.
All right. So Bitcoin, I don't know if you guys follow Bitcoin intraday, but the Monday range is really important. You can see all the games they play around that. This is a 5-minute chart, but once the Monday range is established, and that happened here, you can see they come up and they take the Monday range. So the Monday high was here, right? We dumped basically right off the Monday open, and then we came back up to it. There's distribution here, right? Then they scammed everybody that put stops initially over these highs, right? Ran the stop, ran up into the 1 hour 144, and then dumped down to the middle of the Monday range, right? The Monday mid. And we were pointing out that that's a likely scenario in the Crypto Alerts channel. And we are unable to get back above here. So to me, we got sellers that are stepping down from the highs, right? Now we're stepping down and trying to hold a lower high. So if we start to break down below the Monday mid, I think the Monday low is going to come, and that's going to be important for that to see what the reaction is there, whether they run stops there and then come back in, right? Or if it's really risk off, we'll cut through Monday's low, and I think that brings up a move. These are all like swing low levels, so a lot of this stuff could be cleaned up here, but I think ultimately we're probably looking at revisiting the monthly, quarterly, yearly open down near 93,400. So really, I think the market is going to be really sensitive to any how aggressively hawkish Powell is here. We got about 10 more minutes before the presser starts. Yeah, Justin, I know that topping pattern on let's see, this one, yeah, there are some similarities to that. Yep, to Wickoff's pattern. Bruce, that's why I think we're seeing the initial reaction. I was pointing that out when the news was coming out there at the announcement. Removing progress toward fighting inflation, I mean, that's pretty significant. So you have all the Fed governors on board with pausing rate hikes. If where things are going to start to get really ugly is when the Fed fund futures start reducing the amount of expected cuts for the rest of the year. If that starts to move, I think right now we got 2 more cuts priced in on those. If that reduces to 1 or 0 while he's talking, these markets are probably going to have a pretty nasty reaction to the downside. Yeah, Mary, I'll try to. Right now, we are currently sitting on the 50 SMA, and it looks like it doesn't want to hold. That's 60.47 on the ES. This is the S&P 500 futures. If you guys want, I can switch to the SPX, which is the actual cash index, right? Then you can reference those numbers. But it's important to kind of look at both because both matter. Right, right now, the 50 SMA, let me make sure this is the 50 SMA. Yeah, so the 50 SMA on the S&P 500, the spot index, the one that you see on CNBC and things like that, not the futures. That's approximately 59.83 is the 50-day SMA. That is basically what held us on Monday, and we bounced off of that. So coming back to that, you can look at this as a dead cat bounce where you come down hard, you bounce, and you roll over, and you come back and you make new lows. They call that a dead cat bounce. So I think this level is important to the downside here if we keep losing it. So you have the 50-day on the S&P 500 cash index a little bit lower. ES though, you're losing it, and that both of those levels matter. Below that on the ES, you have the weekly 9 EMA at 60.24, so that's about 20 some odd points lower. we'll just flip back and forth on these. If we start losing the 50 here on the ES futures, we'll start paying attention to the 50 on the SPX, the 50 moving average on the SPX. Charles, that's absolutely correct. However, I think this might be a press conference that he just does not care about that because they're not making progress on inflation. They were hawkish last time. So if the market really starts to peel off, and keep in mind, we could peel off. I mean, we could literally peel off 200, 300, 400 points, and it's just a pullback. So it's not like we're on that cliff's edge here at all. You know, eggs is wild. So, you know, I bounce around. I'm in Hawaii and things like that. My folks are in Hawaii, and there's no eggs hardly anywhere unless you got your own chickens. There's no eggs. And I know up in the mainland, I mean, prices are crazy.
I just got back from Trader Joe's, and they have plenty of eggs, and the prices are their normal price, but they do have restriction.
I do think it's regional. Some places
Yeah, for
have them,
sure.
some places don't.
That's what they said.
Some Costco's you have to get there in the morning, or you're not going to get your eggs. Leith, the move down was actually because of Trump's comment that he might lock down Nvidia shipments to China even further.
Yeah,
So Nvidia took a dump. So it wasn't so much front running the Fed as there was like a 1-2 punch here.
that's beautiful. Guys, check out DIPS. It's the Inversed NVIDIA High Yield Dividend Project. NVIDIA's in trouble. NVIDIA's probably going to bottom out around 30, if not lower.
All right, so we're just going to hang out at the lows. We got 5 minutes until Powell starts yapping, and then he'll yap for probably an hour. But I'm not seeing any like quick. If it's going to be a quick run stop, usually they stab it and they reverse it pretty quick. It seems like we've got broad selling going on. And the dollar, to me, the dollar is now bearish because the way the dollar moves, it's not so much the level, it's the rate of change on the move. And right now, this is a very bearish pressure that's putting on the markets. Bitcoin's about to make new lows post announcement here.
Mm-hmm.
The Fed says unemployment rate has stabilized at a low level. So if they're not concerned, if you read between the lines, if they're kind of implying that they're not worried about jobs, then that's going to give them cover to be hawkish. Because if jobs are being a worry, right, then that forces them to lower rates. But if they're kind of run with the narrative that the job market's stable, then we will definitely see a more hawkish tone from them. If they even start talking about possible rate hikes, this market will absolutely flip out to the downside.
Hey, Trump's getting rid of 5 million people that have been working underground too. He's going to make this labor market really tight. push down some more on SPY.
Yeah, dollar's about to make a new high post announcement.
If this goes as we think it's going to go, the market should be in kind of a sell mode until the March OPEX. And then we'll get a 2-month counter trend rally that should be pretty blistering. TLT went the other way too, Phil. TLT went down. Bob did indeed say NVIDIA to 30. Marie, if the Mag 7 earnings are good, they were already priced in.
Looking heavy. It's looking
Brian,
heavy.
That depends if being on the dole means dole pineapples.
Okay, he has not begun to talk yet. That's the blank podium.
William, I'm totally confident in TLT. Has a 100% track record as the stock market rolls over.
Bob, you know you're off camera,
yeah. I'm eating my lunch.
Oh, we can't watch you eat?
Nope.
Who here wants to watch Bob eat?
No,
Just
I
take
want
a
to
show
watch.
of hands.
I'm scanning the chat here.
William, I will show you a volume leader chart, okay, that has, I think, pretty obvious positioning we're talking like the top 10 trades by size in the history of that fund. I will show you that, and then you tell me if you think they're getting ready for a big move on that thing. We'll bring that up while we wait for Mr. Powell here. See what's going on with Bitcoin. Some other charts here. Look at the order book. Order book's got some support, a little bit of support at 100, more support down at 99,199.
Hey, Phil, it said your session got disconnected.
What? No, we're still live.
Okay. Brian, I'm eating chicken and rice, but I'll move to lobster salad, depending on what the market does for me.
All right, let's look at TLT. Let's see. Let's go back to the beginning of 2022. Right, that's when the market started rolling over, and we'll look at the most recent dates here. 2025, January 15th. Okay, so I'll bring up the TLT. This will be the 10 largest trades. Let me pull this over here. He's still, oh, Powell speaking. All right, so we're gonna get some notes here. Um, so this is well, let me change the date. For some reason, it didn't go to. We're gonna go 2021 January. All right, there we go. This thing's gonna cook up a chart for us. So Powell's doing his prepared speeches. Okay, so there you go. From 2020, the start of 2022, right? You had a big pullback on the weekly chart, right? But look at where all the big institutional volume is. It's right here starting at the beginning of 2024. So if that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what does. And that is a major deal to me. That's telling me that these guys are buying the dip down here. You notice TLT kind of stopped going down in this region, right? I know there's a pretty sizable range here, right? Because you're talking like lower 80s up to 100. But the point is that when these guys get into a trade, it's not that they're like they get the absolute bottom or that their timing's really perfect, but their hit rate on closing these trades out and being correct is extremely high. So in my opinion, they've been legging into this in massive size, and I think they're anticipating TLT to go up for the better part of 2 years, I would imagine. And I think if this goes the way we think it's going to go, and the Fed's not really going to be too accommodative until core PCE gets down in the box, well, then I think TLT can get up to $180 to $200, and that's the TLT and anything like TLT is going to be the only thing performing in this market. So, all right, let's go see how the market's reacting to his comments, and then I'll shout out some comments here. So traders have priced in less Fed easing this year after the FOMC statement. So that's why I think things are getting repriced lower. And kind of the headlines I'm reading here is like, Fed pauses rate cuts as expected. They're hawkish and they're reigniting inflation fears. So the Fed funds future market is definitely reacting to the hawkishness. All right. Here's some cliff notes on what Powell's been saying here. He says inflation has moved much closer to goal, somewhat elevated though. GDP looks to have risen above 2%. Investment in equipment has appeared to have slowed. The housing sector seems to have stabilized. Labor market is not a source of inflationary pressures. A wide set of indicators suggest the labor market is in balance. Long-term inflation expectations appear well anchored. Total PCE rose 2.6% in 12 months to December. Core PCE rose 2.8%. Risks to achieving goals are roughly in balance. Inflation remains somewhat elevated. I'm attentive to risks on both sides of our mandate, which is price stability and jobs. We don't need to be in a hurry to adjust policy rate. That was like the last main thing that he said, and the market doesn't seem to like that too much. So he's saying that they're not, that could be interpreted as hawkish because they're not talking about having to cut rates anytime soon. Our policy is well positioned to deal with risks and uncertainties. So far, the hawkish side is winning, and the markets are reacting as you would expect.
And all the rich people in the world are keeping their money in 90-day treasuries at 4.5%.
That's the thing too, though. It's an interesting thing, higher interest rates. For one, it's been normal, right? And if you have money, you don't mind parking your cash earning 4% or whatever, 5%. But at the same time, that is in and of itself is inflationary, right? Because people's cash keep growing. So it's a conundrum. That's why inflation, when it starts to get out of control, is a hassle. If you lower rates, it sparks inflationary pressures. If you raise rates, it creates a bigger wealth divide, in my opinion, and that also has some inflationary effects as well. But they'd argue that not as much is if you cut rates and spark the economy again. And I would agree that would be more of a powerful inflation reaction, but it's not a simple thing. And it gets harder too, the more wealth divide there is, right? People are more wealthy than they used to be. There's more wealth out there. The divide is greater, but that creates a higher inflationary effect when you do raise rates on that end of it.
Well, the other thing too, eventually, why invest in anything and take risk? So at some point,
Correct.
in order to get the animal spirits going again, they got to kind of take away that passive rent-seeking money and force the big money into taking risk again. The only way they could do that is by lowering
Lowering
interest
rates.
rates.
Well, you get away
So
with lowering rates when the economy is in a tailspin, right? Because then you're not, you can't, lowering rates in and of itself, if the market goes bear or the economy goes into a recession, doesn't, right? You have to let the recession play out. So that's where they can get away with lowering rates and not creating an inflationary spike. And then you're going to incentivize people, like you said, go buy stuff, right? Because
yeah,
now I can't make yield. I might as well just go buy that house. Instead of the yield paying for a mortgage, I should just buy the house outright or whatever. Those effects start to take place.
that's for sure. And at some point, remember Trump's a populist, and he wants Main Street to love him less than he wants Wall Street to love him. And so,
All right, so the markets are reversing pretty hard here. Dollar's taking a dump. So let's see what he said.
who said something still not at the highs before he's the rent, still below the Fed meeting announcement.
So he was asked on Trump's comments. He said, "I'm not going to comment on that." He's had no contact with the president.
That's that's so incredibly disingenuous because he could have sent JD Vance to deliver the message.
Assessment of policy stance has not changed. So whatever word salad the algos picked up on, they thought it was bullish because they're undoing the entire drop now.
Yes, there's still, but this move's pretty muted though, Phil. I mean, one or two spy points is nothing, and it's giving it back again. My thing, we break 599, we go to 596. If we break if we break 603, we're going to fill the gap. It's pretty simple for me.
All right, so we're right back to the Fed announcement level.
Which normally happens, right, Phil? We normally test that level?
Sometimes. So
Yeah.
basically, if this is going down, this should reject here. Otherwise, Powell once again spoke and the market's taking off. He's more inflationary than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, normally if you're gonna go one way from the announcement and come back to it, then the announcement rejects. This is mowing, right? So whatever the algos thought he said, they like it a lot. This is an about face. Powell says policy is restrictive. If we look at last year,
Oh, by the way, it's the VIX. Somebody's VIX crushing right now,
yeah, I mean the
Phil.
market's just going absolutely vertical here.
VIX just went up 40 cents. SVIX just went up 40 cents in the last 5 minutes.
So unless this reverses back down, unless this is just kind of clearing out both sides, right? Then basically at this point, it's bullish above the FOMC announcement level at 2 p.m. and bearish below it. That's how you have to look at this.
It just rejected at the swing high, though. See if it breaks it.
Yeah, we're running into the initial balance for today's session on ES, which is that first hour range, and it's just mowing through all these levels. Powell says need real progress on inflation or weak job market to cut. So
Okay. That doesn't seem bullish to me.
yeah, market doesn't care at the moment.
It's squeezing. That's all it's doing. SVIX just went positive. Somebody just went ahead and just dropped some sold volatility bombs into the market
I
here.
mean, this is a pretty strong squeeze. We're up
4 points, 40
a
points.
quick 40-point spike. That's all. That's why these days are very volatile. You like to, personally, I like to just watch them play out and then see what the carnage is to the upside or the downside. At that point, you kind of have a pretty good idea of what levels need to break one way or the other and much safer way to play it. We have come up and we've tagged the hourly 34 and the hourly 55 EMAs. If we aren't going any higher, that should cap price. If this was simply a squeeze, either some volatility adjustments or whatever, then I suspect this would fall back below the FOMC announcement. So pretty decent reaction off those moving averages, though. Powell said that his sentence on inflation is not meant to send a signal. We're waiting to see what government policies are enacted. Trump says that he will sign an executive order today to instruct the Defense Department. Let's see, what does this say here? To instruct the Defense Department to prepare migrant facility at Guantanamo.
Whoa.
So we got a couple things going on. We got Powell, and you also have Trump speaking as well. So he probably did that on purpose.
Wow.
So basically, volatility is going to be insane right now.
See, you know what? That's pretty smart move on his part. He wants people to self-deport. I've been to Gitmo. Not a fun place to be. It's actually very dry weather-wise, but high humidity, a lot of bugs. Not fun.
Powell says forecasts are highly uncertain. So when Powell says that their comment on inflation wasn't meant to send a signal, Algo said, "Oh, so you aren't hawkish actually? Okay." That's the thing. The minute, like, that's how sensitive this market is.
Yeah, if you want to see the market crash, Powell should say, we're no longer providing any guidance or anything anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything anymore.
People have said that too. People have said they should just start going back to, no guidance and let the market kind of figure itself out.
And then that brings up the risk profile, which would drive the market down.
You know what I honestly, Bob, I think what they should do is, if we do get this recession and it's similar to what we saw in the last two, right? Toward the bottom of that, that's what they should implement. They should say, we're going to do QE, right? I don't think anybody's going to be surprised at that. And they're going to say, but we're not giving any forward guidance anymore. You guys are going to have to figure it out.
Right. I totally agree with it. In fact, they should just get rid of the Fed, just have the 2-year up there as their Fed funds rate.
That's what they should do. Because otherwise, it's just so volatile with all of the leverage in the system. It's just a whipsaw. But, literally, like, I don't know how many of the last meetings we've been, except for the last one where he was kind of hawkish. But every time he speaks, more often than not, he's inflationary. Let's see here. Powell says, I expect further progress on inflation. Right now, we're in a very good place. It's a very large economy and policies affected at the margin. The Atlanta Fed came out with their GDP now forecasts, and Q4 they forecast a contraction. Well, I'll tell you what, guys. If we start busting over the hourly 55 EMA, this market's gonna rip.
Yeah, I got a 5-minute buy flashing on and off, but I'm not gonna react to it yet.
This thing's whipping around so much that the histogram isn't even reacting.
No, it's not. But I mean, right now we've had four green 5 minute bars on SPY. But we got to remember they gapped this thing down this morning too. So uh, they're just recovering some of the, I guess, initial sellers. But we're coming into a squeeze area, but that was volatility squeeze area from earlier today.
Bulls are making progress. Yeah, it looks like I would say there's a decent chance we fill that gap at this rate. Now, if we fill the gap and it dies, then it was it was basically what we call reach back move. They fill the gap, and but then if that's the case, this should come right back down. So again, simplest way to look at this market right now is bullish above the FOMC announcement, bearish below, and so we'll see what happens. But a lot can still happen. He's not done talking. The Q&A session will kick in, and that's where things can get a little more dicey too.
Yeah, he's just still doing his remarks, right?
Let's look. Yeah, look. It looks like he's talking to them. So I think the Q&A has started. Yeah.
Yep.
Dollar. So basically, we pumped and dumped. The dollar spiked, has come all the way back down, and now we're gonna see if we get
TLT is going flat too. So, you guys remember the 80% Fed meeting rule. At the end of the day, if SPY is down, you buy the close. If SPY is up, you buy puts on the close.
Powell says economy has made significant progress toward goals. The Fed is working to align policies with Trump's executive orders on, let's see, what does this say here?
That's funny too, Sean. I got the same alert.
He's working to align policies with Trump's executive order on diversity. Powell says they expect further progress on inflation. Bitcoin is basically banging around in a darn near a $4,000, $3,000 range. So extremely volatile.
Trump's talking about mass deportations now. So we're listening to two different things. Some people are somebody on the chat, let us know what Trump's saying.
Well, we'll see here. Bitcoin's pressing up toward the highs of the post-announcement move. Everything's holding up. This is going to probably come down to the dollar busting higher.
SFIX is giving up its gains back to flat here.
The Fed doesn't act until seeing much more than we see now. Yeah, so he basically lit the fuse when he said that their sentence on inflation wasn't a signal.
Yeah.
That was code for don't completely freak out here. And the market pumped.
Yeah. The 603 area, the 605 is moving again.
All right, I don't see anything earth-shattering coming out from him yet. So far, everything is a positive post FOMC reaction, even though they were initially hawkish, and I would still say that they're hawkish. Um, this is an algo reaction to one thing he said. But dollar just got absolutely blown up.
Yeah, somebody went in there, sold the dollar, sold the VIX.
Our net liquidity has been holding up, although it's starting to level off here. And if this doesn't start going up, then we'll roll over. We'll get a risk off signal. But right now, we've been risk on since the bottom of this last dip for net liquidity.
What time frame? 5 minute, 1 minute?
On net liquidity, I don't look at
Oh,
anything other than a day or a week.
oh, the daily. Yeah, net liquidity. Never mind.
So it's all about busting through these moving averages here. We're almost back to the open. If we do, then I think you have to target the gap fill on the S&P 500. But otherwise, if we're not, there's a big battle here, right? Because you got wick. So they're buying 60, 68, and they're selling these averages here up at 60, 82. So we need to get resolution on that. Powell says, I don't think we need the labor market to cool off anymore.
Everything's just sitting here. MicroStrategy is getting a nice bid up $4.30. Mystex is green up $1. Nvidia is still being destroyed.
So he's probably got a chart on his tablet on the podium. So when he saw that the inflation comment was creating inflationary worries for the market, he basically went in and said that's not meant to do that, and then the market reversed. That just tells you like this is just leverage algos running around on every word that he says. But the real story, like Bob says, is the following day.
Yeah.
No matter what we get, the following days, if you know where we see problems post FOMC announcement is if you start trading below the 2 p.m. level where the announcement is made. If you start losing that the next day, then you're going to see more downside. So it's important to watch this level here at 60.65 on the ES futures. And if we start trading below that at any point in the next 48 hours, then that's going to be your bigger move. Otherwise, we stay bullish above it.
Okay, there's 4 shots at 603 that keep getting rejected. So
yeah, so now what I would do in this particular reaction, I would take the let's do a fib template here. So we'll watch the 50 and 618 area if we do get a dip below the FOMC announcement. Not sure that we will, but let's just see. Turn on the 382 level as well. But the failure to get past these moving averages is telling me that the bulls are not out of the woods yet. Because normally, if we're going to be really, if it's a really bullish reaction to these FOMC meetings, then you're usually walking through those levels, right? The levels all of a sudden aren't resisting. So, but we do have a bidder here around this 60, 68 level. So we'll see if this guy gives up the ghost. We'll look at a 1 minute chart here because that's where, here's your battle, right? Which side of this box is going to break? What's up, Jim Rat? Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. So you can see the 382 is holding up pretty well here. So the algos are definitely reacting to this fib pull. So since we're down to this box, we'll just keep it on the 1 minute here and see what we get. Below here is our super histogram. So this is Bob and I think we're getting closer to singularity with our stuff with this guy. All right, so big reaction there. We got a seller up top here. We got a buyer down here, and somebody's going to break. Only thing Powell has said is just that we want to see further progress on inflation. We want serial readings suggesting inflation progress. I think he's just commenting that they want to see more data on inflation getting back towards 2 or maybe even below. He said flows across the border have decreased. Every reason to think that will continue, but job creation is also down. So together, those could be reasons for unemployment rate to stabilize.
It's funny, doesn't he realize that if you can't get employment up, tax revenues don't go up. Fed borrowing needs to go higher.
Powell says that we're meaningfully above neutral rate. It's appropriate that we're not in a hurry to make further adjustments. So we got the moving averages above us, the hourly 34 and 55 capping price up there, and basically the 382 fib, which is just a hair above the FOMC announcement. We got a bidder at that level. So if we get below the FOMC announcement, we're going to watch it and see if the 50 or the 618 pocket holds. And if not, that's kind of interesting. We may see a potential test of the announcement lows, but that's why the FOMC announcement, we like to mark it off because that's a very important level in the reaction phase of the presser. Sounds good to me, Nano. Thanks for tuning in.
I think Nano's been hitting the CBD oil here a little bit.
He's just having fun now.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So, yappity yap yap.
Another rejection. A tiny bit.
They all
Yes.
are feral hog.
Yeah.
You remember in 20, what was it, 21, end of 21 or 22, they said, oh, Fed governors can't trade.
And then they
And
found
then a
out they
bunch
all
of
were
them
trading.
quit. And then the market, that was at the market top. Thanks for implementing that at the highs. Great job.
It's so funny. Oh, we're going to get out of the market now because it's illegal for us to be in the market.
Oh, we can't trade? Okay, we'll dump it.
But we're going to wait for the high.
Unreal. Such a scam. Okay, Powell says range of possibilities of what happens with tariffs is very, very wide. That's the first time he's mentioned tariffs in his.
Yep.
In his.
The market didn't like it.
Dollar needs to get back above 108. 108.05. Needs to get above this blue line again. Everything's pretty well in sync, though. Dollar, markets, crypto. We don't know how tariffs will transmit to consumers. So you have 1,000 PhDs and you don't know how that's going to work. Why is it? Why do you have such a big overhead again? I think it's
Dude,
pretty
you get to
weak.
work.
I think it's pretty weak that they can't. He can't. That's the answer. We don't know.
Oh, Paul, they all need to be that way. They don't know anything.
If they want to reduce, if increase efficiency, they should tell the Fed, you need to cut your your overhead by like 75%.
That'd be funny. Okay, we
So the
broke
dollar's
back.
catching a little bit of a bid here. I will say that the more he says tariffs, the stronger the dollar gets, the weaker the markets get.
He went from Caesar salad to potato salad, and they didn't like it.
The other thing too is they have not touched their QT, quantitative tapering, right? They're still rolling off. They're not saying they're going to adjust that. So that was also a little hawkish. He didn't say that just now, but when they first came out with the rate announcement, we intend to reduce the balance sheet size.
Oh, that's not bullish.
That is very hawkish. Again, guys, you can't look at everything that he said so far and say this is a dovish presser or announcement. To me, it's firmly in the hawkish camp. I mean, dollar's starting to come back here. Markets are dumping.
Yep.
So now we got to look at this. Now we got to look at the announcement level. Okay, there you go, Bob. You're back to your announcement level.
Yep. So my view is that
There's
all
the
these
50.
currencies are dumping their currencies to get matched up with the upcoming tariffs. And it's just going to make things tough sledding for the U.S. for the short term.
Mm. So now we're back below the FOMC announcement level. We've touched the 50% on the futures to the
Yep.
tick. If we start breaking below this, we got to watch the 618. But basically, if you were thinking that the market was going to stay bullish, now all of a sudden you got to rethink life because we've broken this box, right? This was a big battle here. And now what the bulls need to do is reclaim the 382 very quickly, right? This would have to be a head fake. If they do not do that, time is of the essence here.
Yep.
We could roll back down and test these lows. Very important now that 382 get reclaimed if you want things to be bullish.
It's always bearish when you can't go up and fill the cap on all that good
Yeah,
news that he was
that's a
yakking away
great
on.
point too, right? They had the opportunity, they had the momentum to go up there, fill the gap. Here we're getting more stops being hit. They have to reclaim 67.75 very, very quickly here, like that. This has to come back up really quickly. If they do, then everybody just got trapped here. We're going to go back to these highs. Bears have to defend this. So now you got to battle at the 382.
Yeah.
Who's going to win? I don't know. Looks like the
Hmm.
Bulls. This is a classic failed breakdown if they shoot this back up. Bears absolutely have to step in with some size now and push this down. Big market orders.
Yeah.
Or someone has to reload size here over and over, like with an iceberg order.
I'm just letting you guys know TLT keeps creeping higher. SVIX went red again.
Did that TLT chart make sense for you guys? Let me know.
XLE's green, XOM is green.
This is interesting. This is very interesting because it's trading very technical, very obvious. We've got a shift lower here, and there's a big battle to try and reverse this. Because if you don't reclaim the 382, you're going to open up a lot more stops net to the downside.
Yeah.
Big old battle. Battle for the 382.
Still struggling. It's interesting. It's so neutral right now.
So interesting battle here, guys. See these wicks. Whenever you see wicks like this on the smaller time frames, that's just telling you that there's sellers up there rejecting. So all that stuff matters, right? You had a bunch of wicks here, which is why if you start losing this level, it can be significant. And we did lose it, and we're battling to try and regain it. If we regain it, we'll get a move back up into this area up to 70, 60, 78-ish, right? And this becomes a bear trap or a head fake, failed breakdown, whatever you want to call it, which happens all day long in the futures market because it's very predatory. But there's a big battle here. So right now, bulls are trying to press back up into reclaiming this range that we were battling in. But essentially, you've got, let's just put a line here, and let's just call this right there, around 60, 69, give or take, is kind of the line in the sand at the moment. Anything above that has been getting sold pretty hard. They're really trying to push this back up though and reclaim that range. If they do, we'll go back up most likely to these moving averages. Now, this is a pretty good effort. If this holds, probably going to get our acceptance back up. There you go. So failed breakdown 101. And this is what screws people up. They think, oh, it's over, battles. That would have been the case had these wicks seen follow through to the downside. This is why you're getting a squeeze, because everyone got positioned short and now they're getting stopped out. So this line, the shaded area here, is the initial balance low, which means it's the first 1 hour range from 9:30 to 10:30 when the market opens. So that tends to be a level I like to follow. As you can see here, like we broke down, we lost it, we come back up, we test it from below, we reject, right? We're dealing with Powell talking through here, a lot of chop, but is Powell still talking? Let's see. Let this catch up. Yep, still taking questions. Powell says asset prices elevated by many metrics, including me opening my mouth. I'm just kidding. He didn't say that, but he did say the many metrics part. Overall, this is a good labor market. Lower income households are struggling with higher prices. No duh. We don't need 2% inflation rates to cut again. But you do need 2% inflation rates and lower to print money again. QE. Asset prices are elevated by many metrics. A good part of that is around tech and AI.
TLT is about ready to go green, Phil.
Yeah, interesting. You gotta really watch TLT because if that starts to take off, and I can show you guys before we go. a good way to look at that with the ratio chart, TLT slash SPX, basically the ratio chart of those two. And SPX has just been crushing it, outperforming TLT. But once that TLT trade starts to go, it's going to make up a lot of ground really fast. So,
Yep, because it'll just suck the life out of the stock market.
yep. All right. So, again, because we reclaim this level, okay, the next resistance is the IB low, right? So, if we get back above the IB low,
Whoa.
whoa, whoa. Somebody said something that just negated that entire. Watch out below now.
Whoa, Nelly, as the USC commentator used to say.
That
Wow,
was a big dump. Let's see what the dollar did on that.
TLT went back in time.
That was a pretty nasty dump. He must have said something that Algos did not like. Paul said, uncertainty is always with us. Oh, gee, thanks.
Huh.
There's some real
The
gems.
are pricing in that we're dead.
There's some real gems out of this presser. Hey, Bob, I want you to know that uncertainty is always with us.
Hold on a second.
In case you didn't know that.
Let me trade both sides real quick.
US 10-year is flat.
Wow.
Microsoft says DeepSeek R1 is now available on Azure, AI Foundry, and GitHub.
Do not download DeepSeek. It'll suck all the contents of your PC into China.
So now, what Microsoft's basically, because Azure is their cloud, right?
Yeah.
So now they're saying that they're allowing it. I wonder if that's why we dumped, and it was a tech thing, because that's legitimizing DeepSeek more, which kills NVIDIA. That might have been what that dump was, guys.
Wow.
Tech's going to lead us lower. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. NVIDIA went down. No, it's still 122.
I think that's a significant headline here.
Remember, everybody, version 3 here was the rise of the AI companies, and China basically just defunded every one of them.
All right, so that news comes out. We blow back down under that key 6068 level, or 6069, right? That's our line in the sand, right? It's obvious that if we get below that, it's a battle to get above it. And now they're trying to sell it and push it back down.
NVIDIA is falling further now, Phil.
Yeah, that's for Microsoft to say, hey, it's on our cloud software, it's all good. It's a very, very, very interesting headline. This could start pushing us lower into the close. I'm actually quite surprised that Microsoft said that. All right, let's take a look at the various markets here. So BTC hasn't really gone anywhere since the positive reaction to Powell's statement about his comment on inflation wasn't necessarily a signal. But if the dollar starts pushing back up over 108 again, then we probably see this whipsaw come back down. And if these markets start coming back down to the low end of that positive reaction, then I think we could probably see another dip down lower into the close. So we got to watch the dollar, see if we can get back over this blue line here. ES is basically losing the battle. So the bulls had it there. They had a classic failed breakdown. That news comes out from Microsoft, how they're basically welcoming OpenSeek, I guess you could say, onto their cloud system. And now we're getting a negative reaction. NASDAQ certainly didn't like it. The problem with the concentrations being as high as they are with all of this AI tech bubble is that essentially the market is long AI. And so if AI is overvalued, well, guess what? Timber.
I totally agree.
Powell was asked about the March rate cut, and he said, repeats don't need to hurry. or he repeated that they don't need to hurry. So they're being hawkish. They're not saying a rate cut's coming next meeting.
We're falling again.
So
This
I
is
say this is probably an 8 out of 10 hawkish meeting.
yeah.
You have a unanimous decision to stay pat on rates. And it's a little different this time around, guys, because normally when we go from an aggressive rate hike cycle to pausing to then rate cuts, it's usually it continues. It just goes down. So for the first time in a while, we've had a few cuts and then another pause, really because they don't feel confident in the fight against inflation. They don't think the labor market's in trouble. So unless the labor market numbers start creeping up, interest rates are going to hold. It's really come down to that now. So we got to watch the unemployment rate. Core PCEs on Friday. That's an inflation number they really look closely at. And I would say if that's flat, then that's probably going to be bearish because we're not making progress. If it comes in favorable, then markets might have a really good reaction to that on Friday. Bitcoin's holding up pretty well. Dollar's starting to creep back up here. As you can see, getting closer to that blue line again. Markets are falling back under the FOMC announcement. We can go back to that chart. This is not what you want to see if you're bullish. If you lose the FOMC announcement, you regain it. I will tell you guys in the last, I don't know how many meetings, that's bullish. We typically don't fall back under it again. So this has been a more volatile reaction, but under the FOMC announcement is bearish for the markets into the close. We did hit the 618 of this fib range, which I think the algos are being pretty reactive about this range, so we'll keep it up on the chart, and we're getting a bounce off of that. But now we're struggling at the 50% level and the FOMC level. So
NVIDIA is now, I think it touched its low, but it didn't go any lower. So
correct, Trade Wolf. Yep. Okay, back to the FOMC level. Fed's commenting on crypto. Let's take a look at what Bitcoin is doing to that. Going up. Powell says, on crypto, we think the banks are able to serve customers as long as they manage the risks. Boom. We're going to probably finally get some products for Bitcoin, yielding products and things like that. So that's very cool. And my take's been the Fed's has always given Bitcoin a pass, even back in the Bernanke days. So basically now, for the first time, Bob, I think that's the first time I've seen them basically green light banks' relationship with crypto.
So I have a theory that because they're going to adopt Bitcoin, we're going to have a Bitcoin strategic reserve, and using it, as Loomis says, to cut our debt in half. Because what they're going to do, they're going to arbitrage everybody else's currencies collapsing, with Bitcoin being purchased not just in the U.S. but around the world, and it's going to have an accelerated effect. It's going to outrun our debt, our deficits, and our debt, and then you'll be able to offload and close the debt off it as they sell the Bitcoin. So that's my view on it. I think it may take a while for them to get the kinks worked out, but you knew they developed this thing with the defense of the dollar in mind. So,
right.
And I'm still convinced that this is a U.S. construct.
This is very, very bullish for crypto. I'm going to tell you guys right now, this particular press conference, probably the most significant one I've ever heard in terms of the Fed's comments on crypto. Before, it's been like, oh yeah, it's interesting, blah, 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 kind of giving it a pass. But he was asked, he said it would be helpful to have a greater regulatory apparatus around crypto. This is the most I've ever heard him talk about crypto, to be honest. A reporter asked, should households have crypto? Powell says, that isn't our expertise. We want households to understand the risks. So he didn't say no. He didn't say no, guys. Everybody go buy crypto when it pulls back.
So, well, that pushed the market up 20 points.
Now, that's very bullish. Bitcoin in the short term here could push up off those comments. But I'm going to tell you guys this. If we don't get a good squeeze, the central bank's basically telling you that banks are good to go. Households are good to go if they manage the risks. So if we just don't get an absolute pump off of this, that would be pretty weak. You're talking about the U.S. central bank commenting on crypto. They just haven't ever done that in these press conferences. Not to that
MicroStrategy,
extent.
MicroStrategy hardly even moved on it.
So if we don't start ripping, that's not bullish. Bitcoin should absolutely be squeezing. I think, to me, the Fed commenting like this is probably should have more impact, should be more important than the strategic reserve. I've never heard them with that tone before. That's pretty wild. Nano, he, from my understanding, did not declare all the BTC holdings he had. And he's been spending a lot of money trying to buy articles and put out a narrative that he is innocent. But, and it's not like, I think they've been trying to negotiate with him for a while. So, I
Who's
don't
that?
know. Roger Ver,
Oh,
he was early on. And
yeah.
and then he tried to create a fork of Bitcoin because he didn't agree with the development Bitcoin Cash, but that obviously hasn't gone anywhere. So I don't know. I think the road. I think he goes down a road harder than it needs to be.
Is he in jail?
He is awaiting extradition in Spain. I think it is,
Uh,
or something like that. Yeah, Bitcoin's moving up now because of the comments
for the
from
comment.
the
Yeah,
Fed.
it's pushing the market up too.
Dollar's
Micros
taking a beating on that.
MicroStrategy just jumped up 3 points. Mystics just jumped up almost a buck.
I'm telling you guys, that's a pretty significant comment there by Powell on crypto. Now, whether or not that has lasting power and this move holds is another thing. But longer term, though, you know, Bitcoin's not going anywhere. Crypto's probably not going anywhere. So
Just hold your Misty trade.
that is, I'm telling you guys, like, it's a very significant statement among the history, of these press conferences. Okay, very interesting.
Oh,
Don't
I
see
think we're going
any
to fill the
more.
gap here. That's interesting, Phil, for tomorrow. If they fill the gap today, you get the reversal rule, But this is pretty flat. We may not do anything tomorrow. I guess it depends on how the earnings go. Meta's been pushing up into earnings, and Tesla's been pushing down into earnings.
The minute
So
he said that about crypto, the dollar went right back down and the market ripped again.
it's up 30 points from that
So,
comment.
market ripped because he said, don't take my inflation comment as a signal. Then he says, crypto, banks can mess with crypto and households can mess with crypto. And again, vertical moves. So, those are two things that bounced this market really hard. Otherwise, bears had everything going on there until he mentioned crypto, which is hilarious.
Oh, and by the way, TLT is now even closer to green than it's been. Oh, just a bizarre environment right now.
So now, if you guys notice, right, this was our old box in here. So now, just like down here, bulls want to break out, right? If they don't, this becomes a trap. So like this was a failed breakdown, and we came back up. You don't want a failed breakout, and then this comes back in. So got to watch this area.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be buying TLT here in the market. Usually they don't move together. So other
Our
than that, they're not worried about inflation now.
our gap fill is up here. Let me give that a little better color to see. That's our gap fill.
It's 1 more point higher.
Yeah, I think you'll see a lot more products come out in the next 12 to 18 months with banks and crypto. They'll be able to hold crypto, which means they'll likely give you. I just think you'll see a lot more products come out in terms of creating yield with crypto holdings, because that's really the holy grail. I think is that you don't need to um, sell your crypto, create a tax event or Bitcoin, and you get yield on that, like you do currently with high interest rate savings accounts, right? Because the yields are up, so you can just park. If you got a decent size of money, you can just park it in there. Right? You don't have to do anything and get paid. They could do collateralized. I know there's some services that do collateralized Bitcoin loans, but there really needs to be a more mature product that you could do something like get a mortgage, things of that nature.
So our CCJ stopped out, and then with this last pump, they pumped it up over 50. So, but nice trade for us yesterday and today. Oil's still down $1.
So we got about 13 more points to fill the gap. Let's go back into ES here. So we're back to the 930 open. Gap fill will be somewhere around here on the ES futures.
604.37 for SPY.
Somewhere right up in here will be gap fill for the basically the equivalent level on futures.
Is Powell still talking?
Let's look. It takes a minute to jump to the live. Yeah, he's still yapping.
Jeez. He doesn't stop talking until
Powell
the market
says banks are perfectly able to serve crypto customers. I mean, he's just blown the door wide open now. Now all of a sudden they're pro crypto. So it's significant. I'm telling you guys, it's a significant press conference. Bitcoin likes it.
Wolf got a bump on it too.
Yep.
Wolf's up, not much, that much. It's up 16 cents. MicroStrategy is up $6. Mystics is up $1.60. Hut's up 3.6%. Clean Spark's up. They're all up 3% on that news. ES is still down for the day. SVAX went green, but I gotta wait for them to be done talking.
Let's see here.
No -4 though on it.
Dollar's coming back though.
Yep, yeah, it is. SPY's falling again.
I was not expecting pro crypto comments from Powell today. This is wild.
Wasn't on your bingo card?
It was not on my bingo card for the entire year. You know, the administration, yeah. Banks, yeah. Hedge funds, yeah. But not the Fed. I cannot overemphasize to you guys how significant those comments are. That's a big, big turning point.
Yeah, Bitcoin's at 104.5 now, 104.6 and climbing. Coinbase is up $11 right now. Coinbase liked it.
Absolutely.
MicroStrategy's up $7.50 now. Mystics is up $1.90 now. Might be time to buy some more Misty. Play Misty for me, Phil. Oh,
What's that, Bob?
I said play Misty for me. That's a song, but MSTY guys, it's the Misty High Yield, and it pays over 100% distribution a year. It's a machine. It loves its volatility, by the way. I think with that news, I'm going to be adding to my Misty position.
So markets are pushing up, but the dollar isn't rejecting as much. So we got to watch the dollar. BTC finally catching the memo here. Honestly, with that amount, with that kind of news, Bitcoin should just be mooning right here, right? So I'm not, even though we're pushing back up, I'm not impressed.
I got to put on mute here. Gardeners are in town.
Thanks, Jim Rap. Appreciate it. Looks like inverse head and shoulder, guys. Could be. Does kind of have that look on the 5 minute for sure. Yep. All right, let's go back to our intraday chart here. So again, we don't want to lose, like, and we're just talking, the 1 minute intraday time frame, right? Microstructure, right? We don't want to lose 60, 81, 75 or 60, 82 here, right? Because otherwise it turns into like this situation down here, okay? So I would say until proven otherwise, this market looks a bit undecided. But you're over this previous resistance level. You're over the 34 and the 55 EMA on the hourly. So it's like, okay, you got the ball now, bulls, run with it. And, there's hesitation there. The gap fills right here. So 9 times out of 10, they will consolidate and then one final push to close that gap. Now, if we get up here and they sell it, that's not necessarily bullish. And then you got to go back to this FOMC announcement level. So for going forward, after this, we're done with this broadcast and you guys want to reference it, you want to look at that FOMC level at 6065 on ES. For SPX, I'll give you the SPX level. Let me go to an hourly chart. That's going to be our, let's see, there's not an hourly chart here. Let me go to 30-minute chart. So 2 o'clock, this guy right here, right? That's your FOMC announcement level. So that's 6036, let's call it. Or 6035. 6035 and change. I can't type. All right, so you basically don't want to see the market go below that. Now we are pulling back. We've basically let me get back to the 1 minute chart so we can look at that granularity. Not good, right? That's a bull trap. Yeah, bear trap below, bull trap above. So again, you have to reclaim this level really quickly. 6081.50. This is actually really not good. If this round trips that entire crypto pump, right? Because that's what that was, right? Pro crypto pump. If that round trips, we're going much lower. And that's what I was saying. Like, Bitcoin should be mooning. If Bitcoin doesn't really do anything off of that type of news, we got issues, in my opinion. Normally, that kind of stuff, Bitcoin would just go berserker mode, right? Go up several $1,000s easy. That's what I was saying earlier. Dollar isn't necessarily confirming that move up, right? Otherwise, dollar should be breaking down probably to new lows. White House eyes a legal battle with Congress over spending power. Let's see. I don't see anything else from Powell. Let's see if he's continuing to speak. Give it a second here to catch up to the live. Yep, still yapping, but hasn't said anything really meaningful. U.S. government worker union sues to block Trump from reclassifying and firing thousands of federal employees. Last meaningful thing was a few minutes ago. They asked, is a March cut still on the table? And he said, we don't need to be in a hurry to adjust rates. Again, this is hawkish, right? So if we end the day below the FOMC announcement, I think you can say that at the end of the day, on net, it was all hawkish, and the market didn't like it. Bitcoin should be mooning, and it's just sitting at 104,200. It did go up from 102,900 up to 104,700 or 800 on that news, so that was good for a couple $1,000. But the way Bitcoin moves now, it can slide around $2,000 in a few minutes. So we're dealing with six-figure Bitcoin now, so the ranges are much, much wider. I think the U.S. dollar wants to get back above this blue line, right? Our blue line, basically all that is the 144 SMA on the chart, the 5-minute. But I think if we get back above that after losing it like we did, I think that's going to be pretty bearish here. All right, let's go back to our intraday chart. We're starting to round trip that entire crypto pump. So we had the inflation isn't inflation statement pump, right? That gave back a bunch. Then we had the Microsoft is allowing DeepSeek on the Azure cloud, which is their cloud. Okay, so that was the Microsoft dump. Then you had the crypto's great pump, which is really significant, by the way, but that might be a story for much later down the road. In fact, it will be a story for much later down the road. And now
if you're bullish the market, you don't want to close like this. That's for sure.
This is not good. No, the fact that Bitcoin didn't just rocket off to 106, 107, 108 on those comments is to me very telling, because that's what we should have seen.
Yeah, I did buy more Misty though, because I think it just solidifies Bitcoin here. The naysayers now have lost their argument. There's nobody in the federal government now that's opposed to Bitcoin, which is just amazing to me.
Okanaga guy, yeah. I would agree with you. I probably didn't say your name right, but that's too many letters. Yeah, I think exactly why you're seeing the volume on TLT that I showed you guys, right? Here's the TLT volume. This is big money. These are the 10 largest trades since the inception of the TLT ETF, okay? They're not going to pile in at the lows. That's called shorting the whole, right? Those aren't, I highly doubt those are sell orders, right? This is big, heavy orders coming in from a long, protracted pullback. They've been legging into the TLT position all of 2024. And I think we're going to start seeing this thing. Once we start cracking back over 100, I think you're going to start a journey that ultimately culminates in a move up to like 180, maybe even 200. If the, that's going to be a recession if we get that move, right? So if it's a long one, I think you can see as high as 200. And I don't think that's on a lot of people's bingo cards, but you kind of have to look at the minority view in markets, right? If you're trading with the herd, it's probably not going to work out. There's not enough money to be made with everybody being right? So the minority usually makes the most money in their views. Well, Peter, I think you're going to be recession proof with that position, in my opinion.
What did Peter do? Go to cash?
He says he has 2 milli in TLT.
Oh, that would be pretty good.
I like right now rates being where they are, pretty elevated. Actually, historically more normal. you can make an argument for staying in cash if you're just looking for conservative yield. But they start getting aggressive with rate cuts and TLT starts going up. Like that whole, I agree, like be 100% TLT. Then your net asset value is growing. What is the TLT yield, Bob? 3 something percent?
Uh, no. It's the yield is about 12%. I
How
mean,
much?
annualized.
The yield is 12% APR on TLT.
Oh, well,
What's the
hold on.
ETF yield?
I'm thinking TLTW. Hold on.
I
Uh,
guess you could go. So
yeah, no, I'm thinking.
TLTW trades
I'm thinking
off.
it's TLTW. I'm thinking TLT pays 35 cent, basically pays $4 dividend for $88. So so it's paying about 3.5%.
Not bad.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm thinking TLTW.
Well, so and if you want to ask why not be in TLTW with that higher yield, is that it's not a one-to-one move with TLT, so there's a trade-off.
Yeah, if TLT is flat or falling, TLTW is where you want to be. When TLT gets a bid, you want to be in TLT because you won't get the same capital gains. But while you're waiting, TLTW is paying $4 dividend for $24 stock. So basically 3 times the yield as TLT.
All right, so
So
we came back to our trusty old 382 level, decent reaction off of that. So if you're nimble, right? The trades have been fairly technical off these levels, right? For day trading or scalping. It can be done. You just have to be very nimble. It's not an environment for beginners. The IB low rejecting again. So that's why it's important to keep all these levels on your chart. It can look busy sometimes, but once you get used to seeing them and the way markets react, very helpful.
yeah,
So now we got to resolve. Now we have a new box, right? So we're migrating boxes around. That just means that the market makers are shifting lower. Basically, now we have the IB low at 60.7450 and this old support level around 68 to 69, around that 382 and that old line in the sand that we had from earlier.
yeah,
Yeah, it does look like a bear flag on the 1 minute. Yep, I agree.
yep. It is a bear flag. I'm looking at it too.
This may start breaking down here soon.
If that bear flag breaks out, we should close under 600.
Yeah, I think today's close will be important, especially if we're under that FOMC announcement. Then a pretty disappointing reaction, but kind of expected given the tone.
I'm
I
surprised how
don't
bullish it is, considering the tone.
I wouldn't agree that there was anything dovish here today.
Uh-uh.
If you think his comments about the job market was dovish, or to me, that's just them trying to keep the temperature cool on people's emotions and things like that.
Yeah.
I think the job market's definitely showing us signs that there's more pain ahead, but he can't say that here. If they want to maintain their fight on inflation, he has to give us a narrative that the job market's okay. Like as of right, like today, the speedometer is okay, but they know.
Just, hey, next Friday, guys, as the unemployment report comes out, and it's going to be reconfigured for the birth death model game that they've been playing. So we should have a um, pretty poor unemployment report.
We got about 15 minutes left until the market closes. The dollar is going where we said watch out, right? Coming back up to that blue line at 144 on the 5 minute. So if we start breaking out above that, I think we're going to be seeing more downside. The fact that Bitcoin is just not ripping. If Bitcoin round trips that Powell pro crypto talk, that's pretty bad in my opinion. We got a lack of bid in this market. To me, that was probably the biggest surprise of the day. Yeah, Jim Rand, those things are awesome. We talked about that. Bob talked about that a lot in our training down in SoCal. I think it opened up some eyes, but you can't. It's hard to beat those yields. Now, how will they perform in the bear market? We'll have to see if we get a bear market, right? but because you can adjust things too, you can change the weighting on those. But grabbing both sides of a trade and those yields, just outstanding.
I love Jim Rat. You're like my mother posting on the chat room for us.
Jim Rat, are you in the room?
Are you a trade genius person
Are you a
or
trade genius? Are you a citizen of the Trade Genius Nation?
the TGN? We won't know until the delay hits, Phil. Oh,
All right.
good.
Well, I appreciate your enthusiasm regardless.
We do too.
Maybe, no, I can't change the latency. I'm going to try it next time. I'm going to try ultra low latency for the stream. Will be better for interaction.
Oh, thank you, Jim Rat. Buy
Right.
before Saturday, I have specials running.
Okay, dollars pushing, guys. Dollars pushing back. So the dollar bears had everything. The equity bulls had everything. The Bitcoin bulls had everything, and they're starting to drop the ball. So if dollar shoots back up, we take out 108.25 today, or going into tomorrow, either one. But if we take out that 108.25 level, then I think that's all you need to know. And I think the reaction is going to be bearish. That sets up for a move into Friday. If we take a look at the economic data, right, for the week, we have the Fomc announcement today. We have the advanced GDP and unemployment claims tomorrow. So we got more volatility incoming pre-market. That comes out an hour before the market opens at 9:30. That comes out at 8:30 Eastern. And then Friday, to me, aside from the FOMC announcement, the biggest piece of news here is going to be the core PCE, which is what the Fed really looks at for inflation. So if that hasn't come down, or if it's even gone up, that's going to be core PCE month over month. So previous was 0.1%. They're forecasting 0.2%. So if it comes in at forecast, inflation pressures are still being sticky.
Okay, here comes the 50 algo was slightly up, Phil.
Yep. If you guys don't know what the 50 algo is, there's a end of day orders that get put in by funds, mutual funds, things like that. And so if it's a bunch of buy orders, then the initial reaction goes up, and vice versa. A lot of times, though, that initial surge will get reversed. So we'll watch to see how this 1 minute candle closes. Obviously, we'd have to get back above the IB if this is actually a bigger move that's trying to manifest here. But a lot of times what we'll see happen is the following candles will reverse the push. I would say that happens more often than not. Not all the time, but more often than not. Right now, bears kind of control the IB low at 60.7450. I would say overall, pretty good volatility up and down, but I would say overall that this range is somewhat muted. And it's really going to come down to bullish above the FOMC announcement level or bearish below. It's simple as that, guys, going forward. So overnight action, you can monitor that by watching the S&P 500 E-mini futures, the symbol on TradingView. That's ES1 exclamation mark. If you pay for CME data, which isn't all that much, I think it's like $60 a year or something, if that, you can watch it live. Otherwise, there's a 15-minute delay. But if you're just a casual observer and you want to see if the markets are trading above or below this level, 15-minute delay is not the end of the world. And that will give you a clue as to what will happen tomorrow. Would probably result in a gap down if we're trading below it, I would imagine. Here's a big dump end of day, Bob. So again, like I was telling you guys, the 50 algo a lot of times gets reversed, and that's what we're seeing here. This is very bearish in my opinion, that we're breaking below the FOMC announcement level and losing these previous battle zones. I'm going to get rid of that one because that's probably done. The battle there is done. But classic range type trading, right? You have a failed breakdown, you have a failed breakout, right? And now, if you have a failed breakdown, a failed breakout, and now you're breaking down again, that is probably the most bearish thing that you'd want to see, because essentially, once you have a failed breakdown and you go break out, you would expect that to continue to squeeze. So the fact that they came all the way back down to the previous failed breakdown area and below the FOMC announcement is just not a good look. It really isn't. Every time we sell after a Powell presser is because we trade below the FOMC announcement level. Thank you, Jim Rad. I appreciate that. We've scaled back. We're probably doing maybe 3 or 4 podcasts during the week. It just seemed like more views in that scenario per video. Bob, you're muted. Haven't heard you in a while.
I had it on. I didn't want to overstep you. We just had too much to do. It was getting a little bit too much for us, and we've noticed that if you do something every day, you're kind of saying the same thing over and over again. So we so let's spread it out. If we have a couple days in a row where there's new stuff, we'll do multiple days. But
if we were getting, I would say if we were getting 6,000 or 7,000 views of video, I would say we probably increased the amount of videos that we did. But I think just based on the view feedback, right? I think that's kind of like the happy medium.
Yeah. No, but yeah. Just our hardcore fans were annoyed. Everybody else was like, "Oh, thank goodness they're not doing it every day."
I like the guys that continue to watch us but like to argue.
Yeah, I love arguing with you.
Those are my favorite. But yeah, if you guys aren't subscribed to the channel, please do. That helps us out, encourages us, and pressing that thumbs up button too. I know that's very cliche, but such is the world we live in YouTube land.
We're dealing with the algos. Now we push back up to 602 fill.
This is the 55 algo firing here. So they did the 50 algo, pumped and dumped, right? And then and now the 55 is firing off here. So same thing. It's like the 50 algo, except the 355 algo fires off. And again, it's just a bunch of end of day market orders that have to go in before the close. A lot of it's just fund related. Mutual funds, 401ks, contributions, things like that, rebalancing.
Yep, they don't even know what's going on right now. It's all on autopilot.
Yeah, I mean, Bob and I just do them basically off the cuff. We come up with something that we think will be relevant for you guys, and then we don't do much in the way of pre podcast prep. We just go, and once we're done, we edit it up. We come up with a YouTube friendly thumbnail and title. I think you guys know what I mean by that. You can't make titles that are practical sounding. Just, I don't know. The algorithm doesn't like it. You gotta be a little bombastic.
Not always, Jim Rat. They also sell it between 3:50 and 4 o'clock too.
Yeah. There's no rhyme or reason whether it's going to be up or down in any given day. It's really driven by flows that they see from their clients, right? So
you're
welcome, Lana.
Yeah.
All right, last 5 minutes. Let's see if they undo the 55 algo, which was up. That's this green candle here. Let's see if they dump it back down into the close. Pretty decent volatility today. Not a lot of range. We're barely above the FOMC announcement. I think the overnight action is going to be very telling, so we'll keep an eye on that. But
I may roll my puts out till Friday.
So my view was that if the Fed was dovish, right, I think this market could have been just lit and pumped out of this range. Okay. But I don't think that's what we got today. I think the Fed was digging in. I think they were digging in on the rate outlook. The Fed funds futures lowered their expectations, and that's not the ingredients we need for higher in this market. So I think you have to be defensive overall. And it comes like I told the guys about Bitcoin and crypto. Bitcoin at this point, right? Because it's kind of a sell the news event on the inauguration, just like it was sell the news when Coinbase made their IPO and topped the market out in April of 2021. You want to see a new all-time high, right? As simple as that. So if we don't get that, then we have to continue to be defensive and watch the downside here. So for Bitcoin, if you start losing 90K, I think that could tell us we could potentially go back and revisit the breakout down to 74K. And then in terms of this market here, if you look at, these are our bigger moving averages on the daily. You're probably going to go back down, and if this doesn't really break out, we'll start breaking below the weekly 9 EMA, which is significant, the daily 50 and the daily 20 SMA. Those are pretty significant moving averages. We start breaking below the 20 moving average on the daily. I think you're going to retest the 144, which is where we had our huge bounce from, right? We got back into the previous December FOMC range that broke us down. This is where Powell was really hawkish, right? And we just came back up in here and kissed it and then rejected back down. So that's not a really bullish look. So if we start trading below the 20-day after all this, then I think we're probably heading back for another test of the lows. And I think crypto is going to be along for the ride. So we'll see how that develops overnight. They got really close to that gap. They did not get it. That's not bullish. There should have been enough fuel in the market to do that. So that's not very bullish. Dollar, blue line acting as resistance. Pretty lethargic reaction, in my opinion, to something that's incredibly bullish for crypto from the Fed. From what those comments, banks can custody, households, fine custody, just be careful. That's pretty wild. They just never said anything like that before, and we're only up a couple $1,000 on a 6-figure asset. I don't know. Just doesn't seem like it's the reaction we would expect to get. So my guess will be that overnight things are soft, but we do have those pre-market numbers, right? GDP and unemployment. So that may change things going into the 9:30 open, but it's possible we go down into those numbers overnight.
All right, guys, market is closed.
Yep. Charles, I agree. I think we're topping. Topping's a process now, guys, right?
Yeah.
It's a process. It could last 1 to 2 months where we kind of top out.
I'm going to tell you the secret on topping. Topping ends the moment you run out of money to short it.
Well, that there's a lot of truth to that. I saw a chart. I don't have it up. I can go find it. Maybe we'll talk about it in tomorrow's video. Basically, the amount of shorts in the market is at levels that they're done. There's no more shorts in the market. So to that point, we're there. It's at the lowest levels that we usually see.
Yeah, there's not much left. All right, guys, I'm going to pack it in. I got a busy afternoon, so I had to eat lunch during Phil's riveting presentation.
All right, we're out of here, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe. If you do nothing else today, if you found this of value, please subscribe, and we'll do one tomorrow, huh, Bob?
Yeah, I think so.
We'll catch you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, appreciate and if you guys want to give max effort, join our service. We'll love you even more.
Yeah. At minimum, subscribe. At maximum, subscribe. If you know what I mean. TradeGenius.co is our website. Check it out. Thanks, guys. We'll see you on tomorrow's video. And until the next FOMC rate announcement, we'll see you guys on another live stream then. Take care.
Bye-bye.